A number of retail communities in wealthy areas are now coming up with their own apps in order to stay connected and report potential shoplifters. The only problem with these apps is it turns out that a lot of the retailers are using it for racial profiling. Now, there are specific apps in different areas, and I'm about to tell you what they are. The application Sketch Factor, which invited users to report sketchy people, faced allegations of racism in both D.C. and New York. Other social network roiled Oakland, California, when white residents used Nextdoor.com to cite suspicious activity about black neighbors. Taking it even further was GhettoTracker.com, which asked users to rate neighborhoods based on whether they thought they were, quote, safe or a ghetto. Now, it turns out that Georgetown now has its own app as well, and this app has some statistics behind it that are very troubling. The Operation GroupMe app is stirring up controversy in Georgetown. Georgetown retailers have dispatched more than 6,000 messages that discuss suspicious people. A review by the Business Improvement District of all of the messages since January, more than 3,000, revealed that nearly 70% of those people were black.
Of course, yeah. Of course, they were going to report black people, not actual shoplifters. So it's super discouraging when you see the stats, right?
Yes.
So in Georgetown, what percentage of the population is black? An overwhelming 3.7%.
That's it. 3.7% of the population there is black. Just to give you some more stats, there is about 20,464 residents there. Only 800 of them are black. Okay, so if you're going to make the argument that, well, yeah, black people are the ones who commit the most crimes, so of course they're going to be the ones that get reported often. No, I mean, there's a huge disparity between the population in Georgetown and the number of people that get reported on this app. Also, oftentimes they do get profiled because the people who get reported through the app aren't actually shoplifting. We'll get to that in a second.
So not only will they write in African-American possible shoplifter, watch out, but sometimes they'll take pictures, okay? So the images, they studied those as well. The images have shown more than 230 shoppers, more than 90% of whom are African-American. Known thieves, one retailer wrote, besides pictures of 3 African-American women, without specifying any evidence, look out, right? So 70% of the time that they mention a possible shoplifter, it's a black person. 90% of the time they took pictures, it was a black person, okay? One woman who was black who works at one of these shops pretended to be taking a selfie and took a picture of people she thought were shoplifters in the background. She sends out the picture and they're like, yeah, of course, the shoplifter, smiling into the camera. They're like, no, she's the employee.
It's amazing.
Okay.
No, and the language that they use to refer to, the so-called shoplifters is disgusting. What did they look like? A True Religion employee in May last year asked an American Apparel retailer who had reported a theft. Ratchet, the American Apparel worker replied, using a slang term for trashy that often has a racial connotation. LOL.
Real LOL. So I'll give you one anecdote here that gives you a sense of what goes wrong sometimes. In this story in the Washington Post, they explained that a tall, elegantly dressed African-American man had gone into a store. He had distressed jeans on because they're hot and hip, and they probably paid way too much for them.
Yeah, people pay a lot of money to wear clothing that looks worn.
Right.
It's kind of amazing.
Right. So they're like, oh, guys, black guy in ripped up jeans,
yeah.
right? Gray scarf he had on, a long brown coat. Now, wait a minute. Those sound pretty good, right? And one of the retailers writes in on the app, he just left, headed towards 29th Street, about 6 foot, tats on neck and hand, very suspicious, looking everywhere. Now, it turns out there was a reason he was looking everywhere, because he was a significant shopper. Someone else writes in on the app, he was just in suit supply, made a purchase of several suits and some gloves. Okay, so the guy is looking around everywhere because he wants to buy your stuff. He was just in the other store and bought many suits.
Yeah, and look, here's the interesting part about that anecdote. So oftentimes we'll have discussions about the way people carry themselves, the way they dress, and of course there are certain stereotypes that come along with the way that you present yourself, right? Regardless of what your background is or what your ethnicity is. So for instance, you've made the argument in the past that if you're a black person and you walk into any type of establishment wearing a suit, you're going to be treated differently than a black person who's maybe wearing like saggy pants and like a really big baggy shirt or something like that. But even in this case, here's a guy who's wearing like perfectly fine clothes. Like he doesn't look like a threat in any way, shape, or form, and he still gets profiled.
Yeah. No, I've actually made the argument that if you walk in a suit and you're of any race, you're going to be treated, generally speaking, much better.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it turns out, in some cases, of course, if you're black, even that doesn't help.
Right.
Right. And so, an interesting upside of the app became these interactions, though. Number one, it helped us track what people were actually thinking and doing and saying to one another behind the scenes.
Yeah.
In the old days, they just tell one another, and it wouldn't be documented. But now it was in the app, so you could actually go back and study it to see what kind of stereotypes in there. And this is super important. Very, very few of these cases led to arrests. So they were wrong an overwhelming number of the time. Now, and by the way, not every case that there's not an arrest doesn't mean they're wrong. It could be the shoplifter came in, or a guy came in, didn't wind up doing the shoplifting because somebody took a picture of him or something, and he left the store. I get all that, right? But still, the number of arrests were tiny. So it was mainly just the assumptions of the people in the store, right? It doesn't mean that the black people didn't shoplift there ever. Of course not. I'm sure some black people shoplifted there. I'm also sure white people shoplifted there, right? But it goes towards the assumptions more than anything else. But at least now we know it because it's in the app. And there was at least a little bit of interesting blowback in that other people would be like, whoa, wait, that's our employee. Why are you making those assumptions? No, wait, that guy just bought 3 suits from us. Why are you making that assumption, right? And at least it spurred a little bit of a conversation that brought it out into the open a little bit more.
Yeah. Look, and the great thing is that now you have this case study and you can take the data and actually improve your own perceptions of people based on it. Whether or not people do that is an open question.